Thank you so much.
This is Amanda from the 36 Democrats introducing candidate Girmay Zahilay for our King County Executive. Girmay, over to you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Good afternoon, 36th LD. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing to defend our democracy during these perilous times. My name is Girmay Zahilay. I'm the chair of the King County Council, and I'm a candidate for King County Executive. I'm running for county executive because I believe that our region can be a place of safety and opportunity for everyone. And I believe in this principle because I've seen it. When my family came to the US as refugees, this place gave us all of the tools that we needed to rebuild our lives. Even though I was a refugee here and my family and I experienced things like poverty and homelessness, we benefited from good public policies, affordable public housing, good public schools, a social safety net that helped us go from South Seattle low income public housing projects to now working at the White House, practicing law, and representing my community as the chair of the county council. But I'm running today because those opportunities that help me and my family are out of reach for way too many people. As county executive, I would work to expand opportunity, to expand affordable housing, improve public safety, support good union jobs that pay a living wage, and to protect our environment. I'll also do everything in my power to make sure King County stands as a beacon of hope and opportunity against the devastating federal policies that we're seeing coming down from the Trump administration. And as a King County council member over the past several years, I've lived up to these values, and my track record speaks to these values. Some of the work that you all might know are the big regional initiatives that I've led on, like establishing crisis care centers around the region to help our neighbors that need recovery services, increasing the minimum wage to make sure that our neighbors who are working minimum wage jobs have the opportunity to thrive. Proposing many housing initiatives that build out our housing capacity, like the Regional Workforce Housing Initiative, tenant protections, missing middle housing, and so much more. As executive, I'll continue to aggressively ensure that King County works for every single one of us, and I hope to earn your support so that we can work together to build the future that we want.
Great. Thank you. Our first question will be asked by Alexander Baharn.
Hello, Councilmember. Good afternoon, and thank you for speaking with us. What are your unique qualifications for this role? What makes you the best candidate for this position? And how would you use your experience to improve the King County Executive's office to better serve the people of King County?
It's a great question, Alexander. I'll start with the personal experiences. I feel that I'm the candidate who's able to bridge between communities who are most in need and positions of power. The communities who are most in need are the communities that I grew up in. I mentioned before that I grew up in public housing projects in South Seattle and in Skyway. We experienced homelessness. We were refugees and immigrants. Somebody who has that lived experience, who can connect with communities who are impacted, especially in today's environment with the Trump administration targeting many of the communities that I come from. Having a leader in a position of power who can really connect with those communities, bring them into the decision-making process, and deliver the things that they need to thrive on every level, I think would be incredibly powerful. In terms of my professional experiences, I am the chair of the King County Council. That means that I am currently leading the legislative branch, its operations, its management, making sure that we're getting stuff done on time, in much of the same way that I would be leading the executive branch as a King County executive. I have my law degree. I'm certified to practice law in two different states. I've had extensive public policy experience from the White House to community-based anti-poverty organizations in New York, DC, and Washington State. I was the executive director and the founder of a national nonprofit with chapters in three different cities where we deliver mentorship and professional development workshops for seventh and eighth grade students in three different locations. And I had to manage that organization and grow it. And then on the King County Council, I've spent a long time focusing on the issues that our communities care most about: behavioral health, affordable housing, public transportation, as my time on the Sound Transit Board, and much more. I would bring that professional and personal experience to this job. Oh, nice touch with the music. I didn't expect it to be like the Oscars.
I didn't expect that either. So yeah, I forgot to mention that up top. So thanks for rolling with that. All right, our next question will be asked by Toby Thaler.
We have seen the federal government's lawless actions across the country. What tangible actions would you take in the short and long term to protect the residents of King County and to stand up to the federal government?
It's a great question, Toby. Great to see you, by the way. Uh, Number one, I would uphold the state law, which is Keep Washington Working, which allows local governments like King County to not use our local resources to facilitate the actions of federal agencies like ICE. I would make clear to all of my departments through regular meetings and regular trainings that we are not to use our sheriff's deputies, our jails, our computer systems, and toward assisting these unjust actions by the federal government. That is the state law, and I would uphold that state law first and foremost. Next, I would make sure that I have a strong relationship with the state government in protecting King County. I'm proud to be endorsed in this race by our Attorney General, Nick Brown, who has been filing lawsuits against the Trump administration. I would have a strong working relationship with him that any actions that are coming from the federal government, we would have an Attorney General who is protecting us from those actions. I would also file lawsuits through King County as a government directly. Just yesterday, King County government announced that we are joining forces with multiple municipalities and counties around the nation to file a lawsuit against the unjust criteria that the Trump administration is using to deprive us of federal grants. And I would continue doing that. I would also invest in the community-based organizations that are supporting our neighbors who are most vulnerable, our LGBTQ, trans neighbors, our immigrant and refugee and asylum seeking neighbors, our neighbors who are low income and vulnerable to the federal funding freezes. I would identify who those trusted organizations are and put our dollars where our values are and invest in those organizations so that our neighbors who are most vulnerable have stable housing, health services, and so much more.
Great, thank you. And our third question will be asked again by Alex.
As we have seen from the Sound Transit experience, building things in King County takes far too long. In your opinion, what are the root causes of our inability to deliver on these projects, and what would you do to address them?
So I really have enjoyed reading the new book by Ezra Klein on abundance, which has been taking the public policy world by storm. And one of the things that, or the main point that he has, is that we are choosing bureaucracy and process over building. I would want to make sure that we are identifying what the chokeholds are to delivering big capital projects on time and streamlining those wherever we can thoughtfully. I also want to make sure that we're identifying cost overruns as early as possible. We know that the cost overruns that Sound Transit is experiencing now are not unique to Sound Transit. It's a national trend when it comes to capital projects because of inflation and so many other factors. And I want to make sure that we know what's coming down the pipeline with respect to cost overruns throughout all of our projects. I want to make sure that we also have strong oversight on our transit projects so that we have checkpoints and milestones and transparency when it comes to these increased costs. I want to make sure that we are using an equity lens when we're delivering on our projects, finding out which areas have the most need when it comes to transportation and investing in those. I keep hearing from our neighbors in South King County and other parts of our region that are underserved that they don't feel like they're getting enough attention and investment from our leadership. And I want to make sure that we're partnering with them as early as possible with the cities around the region, having them be partners as early as possible so that we don't confront obstacles and issues down the road. And instead, those stakeholders were brought in as early as possible so that those obstacles don't show up later down the line.
Thank you. And then our last question from Toby Thaler.
What is your plan to address homelessness as King County executive, and what specific commitments are you prepared to make today to address the issue?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, homelessness is a housing problem, and I would do everything in my power to increase housing supply. Increasing housing supply means investing more public dollars into subsidizing housing. It means identifying what are the chokeholds in our regulatory processes that are preventing developers from developing more housing. I would want to cut that red tape. I would want to streamline our permitting process by putting more staffing in our permitting division. I would want to hold roundtables for the developer community to tell us what are the things that are preventing them from building more housing. And so that's number one, is investing more in housing supply. I would also find creative ways of investing public dollars, like my regional workforce housing initiative, which taps into King County's debt capacity for us to borrow money through debt financing and invest that money in constructing workforce housing. I would have more stabilizing efforts. In addition to increasing housing supply, we have to keep people housed. That means strong tenant protections and eviction prevention legislation. I was proud to lead on that in 2020. That means housing vouchers. That means home ownership opportunities for communities that have historically been discriminated against in terms of home ownership opportunities. I would want to have more regional coordination, so more parts of our region are bought in and stakeholders in this process of building more housing. And then when it comes to our actual homelessness response system, I want to continue reforming KCRHA so that it can actually deliver on moving people from the streets and into stable next steps. I like the direction that it's been going lately with streamlining the board so that we have better decision making. I like the direction of being laser-like focused on unsheltered homelessness by increasing our emergency housing capacity investments in things like tiny house villages that are quicker to stand up so that there are more roofs over people's heads. I like the direction of making sure that this is focused on outcomes, making sure that our metrics for success are how many people we get off the streets, and investing in our behavioral health system.
Excellent. Thank you. That concludes the prepared portion of the interview. We'll now open it up for board members and members that have joined us. You want to raise your hand if you have a question for Girmay, and you'll have a minute to respond to each one. Yeah, great. Toby, why don't you go ahead?
So on the housing, you were one of the first elected officials locally to actually do inclusionary housing and land use planning. Will you pursue to further that use?
The answer is yes, Toby. And I want to make sure that inclusionary zoning actually leads to more housing. There are times when our land use experts and planners come back to us and say, in places like Skyway, where the rental market might not bear the increased cost of construction that might be added through inclusionary zoning, on balance, they've told us at times that that could lead to less housing. So I would want to be thoughtful about it. In theory, I absolutely support inclusionary housing, and I support it. And I would listen to the experts who tell us on balance this could lead to less housing. If that's what they tell us, then I would pursue other strategies. But I do come in with a bias toward doing everything that we can to make housing affordable.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. You have a question?
Hi, Girmay. How are you?
Good, Sarah.
My question is just in regards to the budget deficit that the county currently faces. But as we all know, the county is constrained in terms of revenue options, including a cap on property tax increases. So what new revenue do you support, and what strategies do you have to get additional revenue over the finish line working with the legislature for King County?
Yes, Sarah, great question. King County is currently facing what our budget director called its worst budget in the history of King County. We have a $160 million general fund shortfall, and this is particularly alarming because the general fund funds some of our core services, the things that people most rely on to stay alive in our region: public health initiatives, public safety initiatives. And before Dow left, he shared that without state intervention, we would have to cut tens of millions of dollars from the things that our communities most care about. If this was a general fund, if this was a budget crisis across the board, we would have more flexibility, but we don't. I'm really glad to see that the state let us have a criminal justice sales tax, which can be used to fill that general fund hole. I wish it was progressive taxes, but it's not. It's a regressive tax, but I do still think that it's better than nothing. I've sent a letter to our executive asking her to pursue this initiative, and I would absolutely support it because it would allow us to save our critical services.
Great. Alex, you have a question?
Thank you, Amanda. So I would like to know what your perspective is on what the county can do on regarding the environment. And so what would be your environmental priorities as county executive?
That's a great question, Alexander. So first and foremost, we have our strategic climate action plan up for renewal this year. And I think it lays out our priorities very well when it comes to environmental action. So step one is reducing greenhouse gases. We have to do everything that we can to remove carbon from our air. That means expanding our public transportation. That means using our land use code to make sure that we're building more housing density in our urban areas so that people live closer together and aren't driving as far as they need to get to their amenities and jobs and things like that. I think it means changing the way that we consume energy through our building code changes so that we're consuming green, healthy energy rather than fossil fuels. Number two, in addition to reducing greenhouse gases, I think we need to prepare for the effects of climate change. I was proud to put forward legislation last year calling for an extreme weather mitigation plan. So allowing more community centers and libraries to be used for air conditioning and heat protection. And then finally, putting our frontline communities at the center is important. Damn, these questions are fast.
Yeah. Thank you. You've been doing really well with time though. We've got about 3 more minutes left, so I'll see if there's anyone else with a question. Yeah, we've got a couple more questions. All right, no shortage. Sarah, go for it.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, as you know, to ensure that King County public transit, particularly Metro transit, is safe, accessible, and affordable, particularly for our most sort of vulnerable residents. So what would you do if elected exec to improve transit access and safety for all?
Great question, Sarah. The first thing we need to do is invest more in public transit, plain and simple. We need more service hours around the region, especially the areas that are transportation deserts. I represent many of those areas, places like Skyway, where you have a couple of lines that go north and south, but not many options that go east and west. So doing everything we can to invest more in multimodal options is really important. So I would pursue things like transportation benefits districts to really fund Metro Connects that would allow us to have thousands more hours around the region of transit service. I would invest more in first mile, last mile options like the VIA service, bicycles, scooters, anything that we can do to close that gap. I would pursue integration of our fare systems across many different agencies so that people can get off the train and get on Metro, get off Metro and get on the bike, get off the bike and hop on the ferry systems, really integrating that system. And finally, I would pursue strong safety measures so people feel safe on these transit systems.
Thanks. We do have, I think, about a minute left. So rather than a question, I don't know if it actually, Alex, you just raised your hand with a quick question, or I was going to give you the 1 minute to cover anything that you maybe didn't get a chance to cover, or finish up your statement in the remaining time.
Is that for me, Amanda, or are you asking Alex to ask his question?
No, that's go for it. Yeah, Alex
Okay.
put his hand down. So yeah, I'll give the time to you.
I just want to thank you all so much for your time today. The things that I want to leave you with are first and foremost that I would be honored to earn the support of the 36th LD. I think that I am the candidate to help King County solve the big major problems that we're facing in our future. And my track record and values are aligned with our Democratic Party here. I think that track record is why we're leading in fundraising, not amongst just announced candidates, but we've raised more money than any candidate in the history of King County through the most individual donors because of that grassroots base and that track record. We've earned endorsements from our Democratic members of Congress, our Democratic Attorney General, our Democratic Governor. We have more unions endorsing us than any other candidates, more LDs endorsing us than any other candidate, and more tribes endorsing us than any other candidate. Again, I think that is because of the track record, the vision, and being aligned with the values of these organizations like yours. I'll be proud to earn the support of the 36th LD, and I would look forward to working with you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.